Welcome to Spanglish Friends, the podcast for true beginner Spanish learners.
Hola amigos, I'm Val, your co-host and experienced Spanish teacher from Venezuela.
And I'm Em, your Australian co-host who's been learning Spanish for 10 years.
Our goal is simple, to get you confident listening and speaking in beginner Spanish with content you'll actually use in real-life conversations.
Join the Spanish Friends community by subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts and following us on social media at Spanglish_Friends. Let's get started.
Comencemos. Buenos días.
Hello, Spanglish friends. How are you all? And welcome if this is your very first time tuning into our podcast.
Bienvenidos a nuestro episodio número 9. Welcome to our episode number 9 of the podcast.
Yes, and we are kicking things off with our Spanglish Friend Shout Out of the week.
This weekly shout out goes to Siana, who posted on episode 3 with the Reto introducing herself. She said that she is from Canada and has been studying Spanish for 3 years. Felicitaciones Siana.
Keep up the good work, amiga. Stick around, Spanglish friends, to the end of today's podcast to take part in today's challenge, our Reto of the week, and put your skills into practice and maybe potentially appear in an upcoming episode's shout out.
Now, today, we are going to keep building on adjective with the objective that you will start to be able to start describing people or things in Spanish.
That's right. By the end of today's episode, you're going to be able to answer these 3 questions that you'd likely have as a beginner learner. Number 1, what are the most common adjectives, those describing words, to start describing things like shapes and sizes that you need to know in Spanish? Things like tall, small, big, etc. Question number 2, what are the most common adjectives to describe people's personalities that you need to know, such as this person is nice, they're fun, etc. Final thing you're going to learn today is how do you say things like I am, you are, or he, she is in Spanish.
Thank you, Em, for this summary. Let's do it.
So, Profe Val, our first question today, what are the most common adjectives, those describing words for describing sizes in Spanish that we need to know as beginner learners?
Let's get started. We have the word pequeño, which means small. Pequeño, or it can also change into pequeña depending if the object is female. Remember from last week that if the adjective ends in O, you just need to take off that O and add an A instead to make the feminine form.
That's right. So small equals pequeño or pequeña.
Correcto. So let's do an example with the adjective pequeño combined with the word carro, which means car. If I want to say the small car, I would say el carro pequeño because el carro is a masculine word. But if I want to describe a noun that is feminine, like la casa, in this case, I would say la casa pequeña. Can you see the difference? El carro pequeño and la casa pequeña.
Nice examples, Profe. And tell us, what other adjectives do we have to start describing sizes, Val?
Another adjective is bajo or baja, which means short. So you can say el hombre bajo, the short man, or la mujer baja, the short woman. This is the perfect description for me, la mujer baja, as I'm not so tall.
Well, I need a different word for me then, as I'm quite tall. So, Spanglish friends, the opposite of small is alto or alta, which means tall. So you can say, for example, el hombre alto, the tall man, or la mujer alta, the tall woman, like me.
We also have gordo or gorda, which means fat or chubby. For example, we can say el gato gordo, the fat male cat, or la gata gorda, the fat female cat.
Oh, cute. Who doesn't love a chubby little cat? And here we have the opposite of gordo, which is delgado or delgada, which means thin or skinny. Delgado, delgada. In some countries, they might also say flaco or flaca, which means the exact same as delgado. For example, el perro delgado, the skinny dog, or you could say la perra delgada.
Finally, we have one adjective that does not change based on any gender, and it is grande, which means big. And if you remember from episode 7, we mentioned that an adjective likely won't change if it ends in letter E. So we can say el carro grande, big car, or la casa grande, big house. Two different genders, same ending of the adjective, grande.
Okay, so Spanglish Friends, quickly recapping these size adjectives that we've learnt before we've moved on. The most common ones you need to know to describe the size of a thing, an animal, a person are pequeño, which means small, grande, which means big, alto, which means tall, bajo, which means short, gordo, which means chubby or fat, and delgado, which means skinny or thin.
Awesome. Thank you, Em. Now let's jump into our second question of today. What are the basic key adjectives you need to know, Spanglish friends, for describing people's personalities?
Yes, let's dive into it. So let's start with the adjective simpático or simpática, which are used to describe someone who is very friendly, someone who's very nice. So we can say, for example, el hombre simpático, the nice or friendly man, or we could say la mujer simpática, the nice, friendly woman.
Great recap, Em. Then we have divertido or divertida, which is for describing someone who is funny. We can say el hombre divertido, the funny man or the funny guy, or la mujer divertida, the funny woman.
Or how about another word, which is amable, which means kind. Now, this word ends in an E, so we know Spanglish friends, we don't need to change the ending. So we have examples, el hombre amable, the kind man, or la mujer amable, the kind woman. We're keeping that same ending. Inteligente is another one, which means smart. Do you think we need to change that ending? That's right, we don't because it ends in an E. For example, la chica inteligente, the smart, intelligent girl, or el chico inteligente, the smart, intelligent boy. The ending is not changing. For example, eres muy inteligente, Profe Val. You are a very intelligent lady, Profe Val.
Thank you, Emmy. Tú eres inteligente también. And this is an excellent segue into the final thing we are going to be adding to the Spanish tool belt today, which is that you are going to learn how to say things like I am tall, you are kind, or she is fun in Spanish, and learn to start describing yourself and others.
That's right. And to do this, Spanglish friends, we need to introduce to you the concept of verbs, specifically the verb ser, written S-E-R, ser in Spanish.
Wait, firstly, what is a verb?
Let's break it down, Prof. So verbs are our doing words, basically our daily actions. In English, they are always characterized by the word to. For example, to eat, to sleep, to run, or to sing. All of these are doing words. They are all examples of verbs in English.
Yes, and we have verbs, doing words in Spanish also, but we don't combine them with the word to. Ours is just a standalone word. Like ser, which means to be, we are going to learn how to conjugate the verb ser in 3 ways today.
Well, Val, what on earth is conjugating? Let's pause on that for a second. This is a very important concept, Spanglish friends, to start recognizing as a beginner speaker in Spanish and of any language. So let's think of the verb to be in English for a second, that doing word, okay? For different people, you say different things, right? You don't say be in all of them. You don't say, for example, I be and you be. No, you say things like I am and you are. Okay, the am, like in I am, and the are of you are, these are the conjugations of the verb to be in English.
That's it. So we need to learn like the I am and you are and he or she is in Spanish.
Yes, so let's do those conjugations of the verb ser. So let's start with I am. How do you say I am in Spanish? You say yo soy. Now, it's literally written yo, Y-O, soy, S-O-Y, like soy sauce. That's the best way to remember it. So yo soy. For example, putting this into practice with the adjectives we learnt before, I could say yo soy alta. Yo soy alta, which means I am alta, tall. I am tall. Notice that I said alta instead of alto because I identify as female.
Alta. Yes. Another example could be yo soy amable. I am kind.
Yes, and definitely, Val, you are very kind. Tú eres muy amable. And that brings us to our next conjugation, which is to say you are. You are something, like you are kind, you are funny. To which you say tú eres. Tú eres. Written T-U and then eres. E-R-E-S. Tú eres. So, for example, tú eres muy divertida, Val. You are very funny, Val.
So many compliments today. Tú eres muy divertida and también. You're very funny too. Notice
Thank you.
M used the word muy too. Did you notice that? You can always put the word muy in to add emphasis and say someone is very something, like very fun, muy divertida, or that house is very big, es muy grande.
That's right. And finally, let's go to our last conjugation of the verb ser. If you want to say he or she is something, right? So, for example, we would say él means him, es means is. So él es means he is. Or we would say ella es. Ella means she and es means is. So she is. Ella is spelt E-L-L-A. Just like the name Ella in English. And S is the exact same for both masculine and feminine. So we have LS, he is, and ella es, she is.
Great. An example of this are ella es amable. She is kind, like Emily es amable. Or él es simpático. He is nice.
That's right. And you can also use S with standalone inanimate objects as well, just like when we use the word it in English. For example, like we said previously when we were talking about inanimate objects like a house, la casa, you could say la casa es bonita. We know la casa means the house, and then we've added es, which the house is bonita. It's beautiful. La casa es bonita.
Now, Spanglish friends, as we all know, the best way to learn something properly is putting into practice. That's why we are ready to show you with a practical example how you can actually start using this new adjective in a conversation with also the verb ser, the verb to be in Spanish.
So let's set the scene for today's mini conversation. I'm going to be describing my family members, in particular both my father and my mother, to Profe Val, my friend Val. Okay, Val, are you ready to learn a bit more about my family members in Spanish?
Can't wait, amiga. Sí, comencemos. Hola, Emi. ¿Cómo es tu papá?
Mi papá es alto y es muy simpático.
Genial. ¿Y tu mamá? ¿Cómo es ella?
Ella es alta y ella es muy amable también.
Genial. ¿Puedes mostrarme una foto?
Sí. Mira. Awesome! How did you go, friends? Did you start picking up some new adjectives, how I was describing both my mum and my dad, listening to those describing words we were talking about before?
Let's break it down, starting with the question I made to M, which was, ¿Cómo es tu papá? Which means, tell me about your dad. ¿Cómo es? It's a very common question when you want to know about something or someone, if you want to get a description of them. ¿Cómo es?
That's right. And I started by replying and saying, mi papá, which means my dad, and I used es. Now, I used es because I wanted to say he is, él es. So I said, mi papá es. Then I added on the description. So I used two describing words, two adjectives. I said he's alto, which means he's tall. and I said, él es muy simpático. Muy means very, and I said simpático, which means kind. All of these, I kept the adjectives in the masculine form, ending in O for my dad.
Exactly. Then I asked her about her mom, her mamá. And I said, ¿Y tu mamá cómo es ella? Which she replied, ella es alta. She is tall. Alta. Emmy properly changed its ending, alta, as mamá is a feminine word. So instead of saying alto, she changed it into ella es alta. And she also said amable, which is someone who is kind. And in this case, she didn't change it as amable. We learned if it ends in e, in an I, it won't change. So she correctly used ella es alta y es amable.
And we concluded the conversation when Val asked me, muéstrame una foto. That means, can you show me a photo? She clearly wanted to see a photo of my mum and my dad. Una foto means a photo. Notice that this is also another common noun, foto, spelt F-O-T-O, which again breaks those general gender rules that we have. This is one of those rules that is an exception to the rule. It is la foto instead of el foto. So this is a common one to remember. I constantly forget it, so this is a good reminder for me. And I replied to this by saying, mira, which is basically like, yes, look. And I went on to show the photo to Val, presumably.
Love it. Great work, everyone. Thank you, Emmy, as well. Spanglish Friends, this brings us to our 3 things we really, really want you to remember from today's session. If you forget, again, absolutely all the adjectives we have learned, we want you to remember the 3 conjugations of ser, the verb to be. So you can start describing things in Spanish. So here we have it. Number 1, yo soy, which means I am. Yo soy. Number 2, tú eres, which means you are. Tú eres. And last one, number 3, él es, he is, or ella es, she is.
Great summary, Profe Val. And friends, this brings us to our Reto of the week that you've been waiting for, our challenge of today's podcast. Now, remember, if you participate, you will potentially get a shout out in one of our upcoming episodes. Woohoo! So our Reto of today is to describe someone or something important to you in Spanish using the adjectives and the verb ser and the conjugations we've learnt today. For example, if you have a pet, you can say, él or ella es muy gorda or amable, or you could describe someone close to you, like your mother, your mum. You can say, mi mamá es muy inteligente. My mother is very intelligent. Put your answers in the comments with your examples. We can't wait to see you putting into practice the new verb and the adjectives we've learnt today.
Amazing, Em. Thank you. And tell us quickly before we go, what are we going to be covering next week?
Next week, we are hitting our 10th episode. Woo! Can you believe it? Woohoo! And to celebrate, we are going to be counting to 10 and then also 100. Okay, we're going to be learning the numbers in Spanish. So you can start doing things like ordering dos cervezas, por favor. So stay tuned for episode número 10, episode 10.
Oh, wow. Estoy muy emocionada. I'm very excited. Muchísimas gracias, amigos. And hasta pronto.
Ciao, que tengas un buen día. Have a great rest of your day, Spanglish friends. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to Spanglish Friends. We are both so proud of the time you're investing to level up your Spanish listening and speaking skills.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, follow us and give the show a rating wherever you listen to podcasts. Or even better, tell a friend about the show. It's how we can help even more people on their Spanish learning journeys and continue to grow our awesome, supportive community.
Don't forget to check out our socials, including Instagram and TikTok at Spanglish_Friends for even more beginner Spanish fun.
Congratulations on taking another step today towards your Spanish learning goals. Ciao, Spanglish amigos. Until next time.
Hasta la próxima, amigos.